And we are live. NBA Strategy Show Friday, October 9th, Game 5 edition. And we're still in this NBA playoffs. But tonight, I assume, will be the final night. I think the Lakers close them out. And then we say goodbye to basketball for an undetermined time. And that's kind of a bummer. But what's not a bummer? The fact that I got my AirPods working again and I don't have to wear my big-ass cans. Because
you don't look like you're doing a video from 2017 or something.
Exactly. I feel a lot better now. So I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer, and we are going to break down some basketball. Adam, how are you?
Pretty good. Excited for what's probably the last game of the NBA Finals.
It's really a bummer. I don't like when basketball's not around, and now not knowing when it comes back is not fun.
Yeah,
not fun at all.
I don't really care. I don't like showdown formats, so I'm ready for I just want next season to start.
Yes.
And I'm bummed that it's not going to be Christmas Day or whatever was originally talked about. But as far as the series extending, I couldn't care less.
Is there a way that we can make showdown better that would make you more interested in it?
More games? No.
Okay.
I just don't like the single game aspect of anything. I play it, but
I thought that I didn't, and now for some reason I think that I like it more.
I did enjoy because I don't know, I've been working on Showdown a lot just because it's around and I don't consider myself very good at it. But I did enjoy NFL last night. I think it might just be because I won cash games, but I don't know. I played cash games for the first time. I thought that went well. I thought people made a lot more mistakes than I expected them to. So I might go that route more. But for large, as a tournament player, I don't like them just because there's still fewer decision points and it's just so random.
Yeah, it's something that I definitely want to dig into a little bit further, just from a dupes perspective. Is there a number where you cross a threshold where even winning isn't worth it?
Right.
You know, if you chop first with 400 other people, is that a success, or should you not even is it better to lose and not have that lineup at all?
Well, and it's hard too because it's something that one of the things that I seem to struggle with if I try and max center showdown slates is I either end up playing lineups that are duped too much, or I end up putting myself in a position where I'm just losing 90% of my buy-ins way too often.
Yeah.
How do you balance? I haven't really figured out how to balance out playing good lineups and still giving myself a chance to win.
I am working on that balance myself. NFL strategy show coming up after this, myself and Alex Baker. We usually take a look at someone or something that has happened in the past week, and then we dive into building an individual lineup on screen. Spoiler alert for those that are going to watch in the next 54 minutes. I'm going to take Alex through Showdown last night and try to pick his brain a little bit. So these specific questions are going to at least get talked about a little bit from the boss man at 11 a.m. But this is an NBA show. We have to talk about Game 5 of Lakers Heat. So I think that it's about time to dive in. If you're here, hit that thumbs up. There aren't a ton of you because, well, 10 a.m. on a Friday, and this is the 5th game of this series. You guys kind of know what's going on. But either way, hit that thumbs up. It helps us out a ton. Let's start here. Do you think there's any chance that Goran Dragic plays today?
I don't think so.
I agree. I assume we're going to go through the same sort of shenanigans that we did on Tuesday. He's going to try to warm up. I hope that we get leaked video again because it was pretty clear that he was not moving as well as you would like him to. I'm going to treat him like he's out for the game. That's really all that we have up in the air in terms of rotations, correct?
Well, and also Markieff Morris started the second half last game over Howard, so don't really know what they're going to do there. Yeah,
and looked pretty good in the second half. I definitely knocked back Howard's minutes a bit, made it even more of a Keith Bogan style rotation. Did bump up Markieff Morris a little bit, so this strikes me as the time where he won't play because I seem to be a day late to all of this stuff. Otherwise, I think it's all pretty normal. Nobody really has any break in case of emergency type plans any longer. They've thrown all of their crap against the wall to find out what sticks. And now you just got to be better.
If Dragic does play, you have to assume he's not producing at the same rates as normal.
If Dragic plays, I don't think that I would change anything about my process. I would rather just treat him like he's not playing. I'll knock down Kendrick Nunn's minutes
a little
bit.
I think you can project a bunch of minutes to Kendrick Nunn if Dragic.
No. But like, I'm not gonna project Dragic at all.
Okay.
Like it's not. I can't project him. Let's just say that we thought he could play 20 minutes and we put him in for 20 minutes. I have no idea what to project his like ability.
I'd probably do something like 0.8 or 0.85 times as normal.
Yeah. So at that point in time, I think it's probably just easier to knock back Nunn's minutes and then not care at all. Put Dragic at a position where I know that I won't get him. Just enough that he shows up, but not enough that he ever actually shows up.
I get nervous doing that on showdown slates with anybody.
I think this is different. I mean, look, like, if he would go out and beat me and like look good, whatever, I'm more than okay taking the path of, well, I think that the torn plantar fascia on his foot is going to limit him in a way that I don't think he can go for. If he can go for, like, if he takes all the drugs in the world and doesn't feel it, I can't know that.
Right.
I just have to assume that he can't move. And, he's not going to play. Well, now that I say it, he'll play, but he won't. I don't think that he can play enough minutes to matter. It's not. I'm sure they didn't drop his price to like 1,400 on DraftKings or something. He's probably like 8K.
He is.
If he's 8K, that's going to be awesome. Is he really?
Yeah.
It's not on my screen because he is not. I didn't give him minutes. So everything that I see does not have his name on it. If only that paid out like a GPP, right? Because that would be a win for once. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Heat to start. And the easiest spot to do that is Jimmy Butler. He's 16-2 in the captain spot, 10-8 in the utility spot, both on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Jimmy Butler is $15K. That's $500 cheaper than Anthony Davis. How do you feel about Butler? I ran my Sims before we started this show, and Jimmy Butler showing up as a really nice captain spot play, only bringing in 16% of the ownership in the captain spot right now, a little bit more in the utility, 53. How do you feel about Butler?
Well, salary came up, which makes it more of a more difficult decision because it's a lot easier to just get from Butler to LeBron or Davis now. So that makes him, I think, less valuable, but still a good play. I think it'll just be a little bit harder to get all three of those guys into your lineup. But I still think he grades out well, mostly just because of how many minutes he's expected to play. Once again in game 4, played 43 and a half minutes. We talked about it with regard to Bam coming back last show, but even when you consider the rate drop from like 1.3 points per minute to 1.2 when Bam's on the floor, even if you drop that rate a little bit further because he's playing the Lakers and because they're such a good defensive team, 43 and a half minutes of Jimmy Butler averaging well over a fantasy point per minute is going to make him a good play. Yeah.
And there's also the opportunity that he has like a 65th percentile game and at that 42 minutes, and it becomes really problematic. The proximity to AD in price is, I don't want to say concerning. Obviously, AD just simply going to be a better play from a fantasy point perspective. I do like the limited ownership, though. LeBron, AD, and Butler are going to clearly make up a ton of the ownership at the captain spot. The better question then is, how do you feel about Bam in that spot, whether that's captain or utility? Do you have a lean for Bam?
A lot will depend on where ownership projections end up. Right now, we have Bam at 45%. We have Butler at 68%. 16% captain for Butler, 7% for Bam. I think if it holds around there, I probably play more Butler because I do think he's the better play at their respective salaries and the ownership gap isn't that big.
I like Butler a ton more at captain. Given the ownership right now, I probably like Bam a little bit more at utility. I think Butler going a little bit over owned there. I think that could be an interesting spot to flip-flop those two guys. And then we just get into like a sea of grossness, whether that's Tyler Hero or Jay Crowder or Duncan Robinson. They're all pretty expensive. None of those guys really grading out as anything super exciting for me. So in that next tier of Heat guys, Hero, Crowder, Robinson, anything stand out to you?
No, pricing looks pretty gross on those guys. Hero, I think, is the one that actually has a ceiling that he can, be someone you really need, but it's still really, really unlikely that he gets there. Obviously, it would mean that he somehow takes over the game and Jimmy Butler doesn't. The salary, I think, is just too expensive. He is playing a lot of minutes, but outside of that, I don't really see any reason to be interested there. And then with Crowder and Robinson, it's tough with the salaries coming up because we talk about it a lot, but especially in the case of Robinson, less so in the case of Crowder, but still true. They kind of just, they're not creating for themselves, obviously, but like they are just out there to knock down open shots and then get, in Crowder's case, some rebounds. But like, obviously he's not the primary rebounder. It's just really tough, I think, for either of those guys to really pay off that salary or to have a really big game that you need at that price point.
Yeah, that seems sort of like a no man's land. Although in a way, it feels like they're probably a little underowned, just given the way the slate makeup goes. They're just not guys that I want to have in large majorities of my lineup.
Yeah, I think maybe, I don't even know if I would say that I think they're underowned. I think that just in terms of trying to get unique lineups or at least minimally duped lineups, rostering the lowest owned guys on the slate that are going to play reasonable minutes is always appealing. Because, I guess one thing to keep in mind is that with it being a single game slate, you don't need necessarily every single one of your guys to hit whatever you define value as, like 5x plus 10 or whatever. You just need the best lineup basically. So raw points can come into play there, where if things break a certain way, it's just a matter of, does Jay Crowder score more points than Kentavious Caldwell-Pope or something like that? So from that angle, they can still be useful, but it's more of just kind of a last guy in, okay, I have the money in this lineup kind of thing.
Yeah. As we drop down a little bit further on the Heat guys, Nunn, Olynyk, Iguodala, Solomon Hill. I felt great with my Nunn exposure, given the amount of minutes he played in game 4. That dude could not buy a bucket. He looked like utter trash. I'm nervous about his minutes going into today's game, but I want to point out the guy that I like the most from the rest of the Heat, and it doesn't make me feel good whatsoever. I think Andre Iguodala is a fantastic play at 2,400, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree, just because he is so cheap and because the value is harder to come by on this slate than it was on previous slates. I just ran like 20 optimal, or my top 20 projected lineups, and Iguodala was in 70% of them. So yeah. I think, that makes sense. The concern that I would have is that, he's projected to be owned by nearly half the field, and he's probably not going to score a lot of fantasy points, but I think he's just going to be really useful because of the increase in price to Butler. It's not going to be the same as it was in previous games where you can basically just put in Butler, Davis, LeBron, and then figure it out from there. You're going to need that value. And so I think that Iguodala becomes a little bit more useful.
When he finished in an optimal lineup in my sim, he averaged 16.8 fantasy points. So it doesn't take a lot for Andre Iguodala to immediately become, I don't want to say essential, but if Andre Iguodala gets to 15 plus fantasy points, it's going to be you're probably going to need him. Because
for context, I said that he was in 70% of my top 20 projected lineups. I haven't projected, my baseline on him is like 12 points.
Yeah,
so
same.
Him actually doing well.
Yeah. And if you get him, the most likely scenario is probably needing definitely 2 of 3, LeBron, AD, Butler, and it certainly opens up scenarios for 3 of 3, I'm guessing. That would be 37-4. So you would have 12-6 remaining. No, 11, 12. Yeah, 12-6 remaining. So plenty of money to go around after that. What do you think of Nunn or Olynyk or Solomon Hill? Do you think there is another value guy? Can we go back to Nunn? How do you feel about him?
I think you can go back to Nunn. He did play a lot. You kind of saw the same thing. Well, not the same thing, but similar. Played a lot more in the first half than the second half last game, which is always somewhat concerning, I think. But it's the Hero and Robinson played more in the second half. Robinson played a lot fewer minutes in the first half than he did in the second half. But obviously that opportunity is there. And even if Dunn only plays like 20 minutes, he at least still has a chance to be a solid value at 4K. So I'm fine going back to none. It's obviously risky, but he's still cheap enough. And now the gap is even bigger between him and the, like Duncan Robinson type guys.
We have him projected for 7.5% ownership in the captain spot. I'm going to tell you guys right now, don't do that.
Yeah, that seems really bad.
Yeah, just full on ignore that one. It's not going to go well, or it will. I won't have him today like I did in game 4, and he won't go 2 for 11 from the field. He'll go 7 for 11.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say, or Hero rolls an ankle or something. I mean, like, it obviously can still work. It's one game and it's a guy that's in the rotation, but it's not likely.
Is there anything else you want to touch on from the Heat?
I don't think so. I mean, I guess, like, are you taking shots on Olynyk at 3K?
He came out like fully neutral, 19% ownership, and in the sim he showed up 20% of the time. So I would likely get somewhere in that neighborhood and have a ton of Iguodala because I have him a lot higher than his ownership right now.
Yeah, I think that's about where I would be too.
Just for Kelly to get there, I feel like we need to lose Bam. And at that point, I don't know.
Well, and the thing is too, like, if you go Kelly and Iguodala, you really need those expensive guys to have like massive games relative to mid-range.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then you can go to, if you have Kelly and Iguodala, you're absolutely playing LeBron, AD, and probably Butler, and that still allows you enough money to go to Hero at that point, or you can switch from Butler to Adebayo and really have anything you want. I don't have anything else on the Heat.
Me neither.
I do think that we should touch on a little bit of the free content we have going today. NFL Top Stacks tool, free today. So if you want to get an idea of where the boss man's going to be this Sunday, check out the Top Stacks tool. You are on an NBA show, so NBA projections, free tonight. This could be the last game of the year. If you're playing, come check out our projections. And if you're playing MLB, which I believe there's only one game today, Adam, you might know more than I would. MLB rankings free today. So there's that. Schedule loaded. We've already had the betting show with Ben and Julian right before this. 11 a.m. I'm staying right here. Alex and I are going to talk a little NFL strategy, do some lineup construction. That'll be it for about an hour. Then Matt and Kyle are going to do the fantasy football start sit show at noon. Then we got a little bit of a break because we're not going to have an MLB live before lock show since there aren't more games. I will be back with Rinpack at 8:15 Eastern time tonight. I got excited, so I typed in NBA into Google to let the schedule populate, and I immediately saw that the start time was 7:30, and I was like, hell yeah, I can get this damn thing done early and like sit down and watch the game. No, that's if they play Sunday. Tonight's game, 9 o'clock start. It sucks. I hate it so much. I'm so tired the next day, but Rinpack and I will be there, and you can find out what Rinpack's doing because I'm sure he's going to win another showdown slate. The only thing that I know him to do is to win showdown slates. I'm ready to dive into the Lakers. How about you?
Yep.
Okay. We'll start at the top, as per usual. LeBron James, Anthony Davis. LeBron, slightly more expensive than AD. Same question as usual. Who do you prefer?
Slight edge to LeBron, but just expecting to get both of them in a ton of lineups. Yep.
I actually have a slight nod going to AD at the captain spot, and especially because of the ownership. LeBron at 21, AD at 15. I'm going to naturally get a little bit more AD at the captain spot. I'm just going to get a lot more LeBron than in the utility. There's no real way around it. I don't care which one I get. I don't think it's really all that easy to prioritize either one of them. They're clearly the two best plays in the game, and that's the best you can do in a one-game slate. Where it gets weird is when you start talking about the rest of this team. It's crazy to think you start with LeBron and AD and then drop all the way down. It's Jimmy Butler, Bam, Hero, Crowder, Robinson. The next 5 guys in salary are all guys from the Heat. Then you get into the Lakers. Rondo, KCP, Kuzma, Danny Green. Let's stay in that little group. Rondo, KCP, Kuzma, Danny Green. Who do you like the most?
Between Rondo, KCP, Kuzma,
Kuzma, Green. Yeah.
I think Rondo at 6,200.
Same. I like it. Rondo showed up quite a bit in the captain spot for me, way more so than the public ownership, and then quite a bit over the utility as well.
Yeah, I think it's just, I mean, Kuzma, we know unless something really weird happens, is getting like 20 to 22 minutes, probably just missing a bunch of shots and not really doing a whole lot. KCP, I expect, normally you're seeing around 30 to 31 minutes, but his salary's come up to where he's 5,600 on DraftKings, and he's just not typically going to produce enough in 30 minutes to really be worth that. Rondo's not that much more expensive at 6,200. Typically, you're going to get 26-ish, maybe a little bit more minutes, and he at least has that volatility that KCP doesn't have, where he can really put up a big score relatively easily. So I give the edge to him.
Yeah, I'm going to end up with too much, which is rarely fun, but I'm cool with it. Especially if his ownership is going to be relatively low. I think that he'll be the guy outside of that top trio that I kind of get a decent chunk of at the captain spot and hope for the best from Rondo. Let's see what he did when he showed up in the captain spot. So on average, Rondo ended up with 39 real fantasy points, which would be 58.5 in the captain spot. So if you can get like north of 50 from Rondo in the captain spot, it's a decent chance that, you're getting that sort of optimal. Go Rondo, I guess. I hate Rondo so much. I really do. Now we'll scale it back a little bit further, even though some of these guys are in a more realistic salary tier to Rondo. But we've got Markieff Morris, played a lot more in the second half of Game 4. We've got Dwight at 3,200, who lost those minutes. And that's sort of it. I mean, we've got Caruso at 3,400. I think we know what we're getting out of him now, but let's look at that trio. Markieff Morris, Alex Caruso, Dwight Howard. Who's the guy that you want the most?
Keith.
More so than Caruso?
I think it's close, but I like Keith a little bit more.
Okay. What's your expectation for minutes from Caruso or from Morris?
Mid-20s, 24, 25.
Okay. Yeah, that's what's concerning me. I might be under projecting his minutes there. I have him at 22. It might be a bit too light. I don't like the problem is that I think it's just as likely that he doesn't play like that sort of extended run. I don't think they really. That's true. I just don't think that they really care where they're getting those final 3 spots from in the grand scheme of things. Like, I think KCP is probably the firm third guy now for the Lakers, which is a weird statement to say. I don't think it matters all that much the next two. Like, if Dwight has a really good rotation in the first quarter, I expect him to play that same rotation in the third quarter.
Does Dwight start?
I think so. I can't imagine them changing it up 3-1. You think? I mean, I don't want to say that I think the chance is 0, but I'd be surprised if they made that switch right now. What's the gain there?
I don't know. They did it mid-game last game.
Well, mid-game is different than starting a game. Markieff Morris hasn't warmed up to start a basketball game in a pretty long time. It'd be weird to just flip that in Game 5.
Since like last series, 2 series ago.
When did he start?
I'm trying to remember, but they did this already in the playoffs. It was in the Portland series, I think.
Jesus, I can't even. When was that?
No, it was the Lakers series.
They are the Lakers.
The Rockets series. Yeah, Morris was starting against the Rockets.
To be fair, I think that's a little bit different of a series.
Yes, it's different. I'm just saying that they did this where like Morris starting the second half and then he became the starter.
Yeah. I don't think that change happens today. Oh, can't wait till it happens and I'm underrepresented on Morris. So what do you think of the 31% ownership on Morris? You think that's about right?
Yeah, I think
same ownership as Caruso.
Yeah, I think they're both about right. Like, they came in really close for me. I can definitely knock a couple of minutes off Morris because I do agree with you that this is far from certain that you get the same rotation, from Morris. Like, he played 30 minutes last game. So obviously giving him 24, 25 is still giving him fewer than he played last game, but it's not even certain that he gets to there. So I think it's pretty much about where it should be.
I think that I would get to more Caruso than Morris, and I will be okay with it, I guess. I guess I don't really care. Like I can easily a 2-minute boost to Markieff Morris, and that becomes a full coin flip for me. The guy that I know that I don't want is Dwight.
So I went back to the Rocket series to see kind of like how it had played out from game to game. Mm-hmm. And they were starting McGee both halves. Then they went to McGee starts the game, Morris starts the second half. Next game, Morris started the game.
Oh, JaVale, where'd you go?
And that was coming off of Lakers wins the entire time. Like they won the game where McGee started both halves. Then they won the game where Morris started the second half, and then they started Morris.
Okay. Definitely something to keep in mind. I'm going to bump Markieff Morris's minutes because I think that I'm underrepresenting him, but I think that ultimately I'll still prefer Caruso. Lakers win this? Is the series over?
Yeah.
Wow, it is 10:29, and we've talked about both teams already. That's I just assumed when I looked down it was going to say 10:45. That's not at all what happened. 162 of you here, though. Don't be afraid to hit that like button. Helps us out a ton. Derek Phillips says, just attempted a build with Rondo captain, and it was a disaster after adding LBJ, AD, Jimmy, and Bam. Jimmy/Bam.
Oh, I was about to say, well, yeah.
Yeah.
After you spend all your salary, it's hard.
Yeah, it's 44-3 to get Rondo captain, AD, LeBron, Butler. So that leaves you 5,700 total. So you're going Iggy, Kelly, Iggy, Howard.
Yeah. Which is fine. Whatever.
Only 2 options, yeah. Probably Iggy Howard would be the combo that I would like the most there. 49.9.
Yeah, and I mean, if you do make Butler, Bam, you get more of those cheap options.
Yeah.
Because that opens up Nunn and Morris and Caruso.
Yeah, if I drop that down to Bam, that gives you 43.3, so 67. Iggy gives you 45.7, so that leaves you 43. So you can get to Nunn then. It's never going to be comfortable. You have to play crappy dudes in Showdown. It's not fun. Unless you're right.
Yeah, it's not like making the captain be Davis or LeBron or Butler instead of Rondo is going to make this easier.
Right. Is there anything else you want to touch on from the Heat side of this?
From the Heat side?
Yeah.
No.
Lakers side?
Not really. I mean, I don't think we specifically touched on Danny Green, but it's the same thing as always. Like his median minutes is probably like 20, 21 minutes. There's certainly a path where he plays like 26. And if he does get that path, he probably is playing well, which is nice. But it's still difficult to trust him. I mean, 17% ownership at 4,400. Like he's the lowest owned cheap guy, which is sort of nice in tournaments. Just for the same reason we were talking about with like Green and Robinson, where just having low owned guys is nice on a showdown slate, but you're not going to trust him.
I'm afraid to talk about Danny Green because everyone just keeps talking about him like he's never been good, including us. And it makes my blood boil.
Yeah, that's what throws me. It's like I just keep waiting for him to turn back into actual Danny Green.
Yeah, like I mean, I think his hip is like a real problem. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that like he needs off-season surgery because of it. But to like point out that there's a petition going around that he shouldn't get a ring, as if he's been like this pariah for it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It makes me hate everyone in the world, even more so than I already do.
For what it's worth, he's still averaging 3/4 of a fantasy point per minute in this series.
Yeah, it's because most people aren't bright. Drives me nuts. All right, we can take a couple questions. Go ahead.
How big do you think? So the actual difference, what do you think the actual difference is in DraftKings points per minute in this series between Danny Green and Tyler Hero?
Oh God, if you told me that Danny Green was ahead of him, I wouldn't even be surprised.
He's not, but they're separated by 5 by, God, I'm so bad at decimal math.
Hundredths?
Yeah, 500th
Okay.
Of a point. 0.79 points per minute for Hero, 0.74 for Green. I feel like if you just like asked random DFS players, it would be that Tyler Hero is averaging like 1 fantasy point per minute. Danny Green's averaging like half.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a word for those sorts of people. I'm not going to say it on this stream, but there's a word for them. We can take a couple questions. So YouTube chat, if you're there, feel free to drop some questions in. We've got a little bit of additional time. Same scenario from our premium Slack. Oh. Apparently there was a Jets positive test?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Who are they playing this week?
Cardinals?
I know we talked about it on the NFL show.
Cardinals.
Yeah.
Best captain option priced under Rondo.
Best captain option priced under Rondo. Iguodala?
My answer is Caruso. Iguodala would be second.
Yeah. Just like completely blow it up at that point and get the stars in your lineup.
The problem is that like everybody under Rondo are all like 1 to 4% likelihood type dudes to be that captain.
Right.
And it's really hard to find any sort of margin between all of them. You know, I give one guy an extra half minute and suddenly he's in a captain spot significantly more just because the total range is pretty small. Any Hero or Morris at captain as a pivot? No, not for me.
I wouldn't expect to. Maybe a little bit of Morris, just thinking the same thing as Iguodala.
Yeah.
But I would be shocked if I got the Hero.
Do you play Iggy to get your top 3 players in your lineup? I mean, I play Iggy because I think that he's in a winning lineup a lot.
Right.
I don't really care who else is in it with him. I mean, like, yes, it opens up your salary, but at the same time, like, you're just as, you know, you might not need it. If Iggy goes well, you know, there's also a decent chance that the winning salary or the optimal salary is like 56.7 or something. Who would you fade of the two, AD or Butler on FanDuel? AD 15.5, Butler 15K. This one's an easy question then. AD is 79% owned, Butler 47.
Oh, then AD.
Yeah, not close.
They're like the same. I mean, Davis projects a little bit better, but not by a lot.
Right. Best star to fade playing 10 lineups.
Can I cop out and call Bam a star?
Yes.
I'll do that.
Is it viable to start a minimum salary guy who gets 0?
Probably not, no.
I agree.
In some situations, it's okay, I think, to take on that risk. Like, you don't want to just say, like...
Don't make that your only lineup.
Huh?
Don't make it your only lineup.
Well, and I was going to say, you don't want it to be like... You don't want to say, there's a 0% chance this guy plays, I'm still going to put him in my lineup. But there are some situations where I think it would be reasonable to say, take, I don't know, Chris Silva or somebody like that, like Haslam, like where... You know, maybe they end up getting 4 minutes and getting like 4 fantasy points or whatever. But this isn't like that because this isn't a series where you have a mid-range of guys with high ceilings. You don't have like a Chris Middleton, Chris Paul, like that type of guy where you're like, okay, I really want the stars and I want them. Like the taking the 0 doesn't really accomplish anything.
Exactly. What else do we have here? What else? Who's your favorite captain play on DK? Best captain option for single entry? Take those questions the same. I mean, the best captain option is 100% one of LeBron, AD, or Jimmy Butler, in that they are the most likely guys to show up in the captain spot by a mile. Does that mean that's a good thing? I don't know. I think that Rondo is the best captain option of someone that is lower owned that could actually give you a chop that isn't 600 people.
Right.
Let's see. Any none at captain? I will have none.
I wouldn't expect to have, I mean, I'm not going to say I'll have none. I wouldn't expect to have much, if any.
I can tell you, if ownership was exactly what it is right now, I will have 0, and I'm not entirely sure that I could do anything at all to get him into a lineup given his current ownership at captain. If he really is 7.7%, he won't even be in like my top 1,000 lineups. Fully fade Kelly O on FanDuel. Price is egregious. Yeah, full 100% full fade. If you could take $2,000 off of his price, and he should still be a full fade.
What is he on FanDuel?
He's $500 more expensive than Tyler Hero.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
I mean, it's not even worth talking about. I don't think that there's a scenario where Kelly Olynyk could be in the winning lineup at 11.5. Unless Bam and Jimmy Butler get Tanya Hardinged or something. I guess they would get Nancy Kerrigan. But that's neither here nor there. Can we fully fade FanDuel as a DFS site?
I'm here for that.
I mean, Adam would love them if they would just change their deposit limits.
Well, no, I'd still hate them. I would just suck it up and play.
Yeah. I'm a fan. I don't know. I've never cared. I go through I go through like ranges where I will only play on FanDuel for like 3 months, and then I'll go to DraftKings and only play on DraftKings for like 3 months.
Sometimes I enjoy FanDuel just because it's different, and after like a week I stop. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's realistically, if you're playing seriously, you should play on as many sites as you can handle time-wise, because you're getting different pricing, you're getting different opponents and all of that. So different scoring. And so it lets you get more money in play while taking on less risk relative to how much you're playing. So realistically, you should play as much as you can, and it pisses me off that I can't. But yeah, I mean, half joking, I just hate the site.
Josh, what are the odds Rinpack gets first again? 100%?
Right.
I don't know. He showed up in my sim 99.9%. You never know when he gets a bad internet connection and can't make it. It's not from his, it's like a guy getting hurt and not being able to control it. If his internet goes down and he can't put his lineups in, that's the only way that he won't win.
His internet would never go down.
No, never. Never. Duncan Robinson, he's definitely a guy that we didn't touch on at all. He's just too expensive. Yeah,
he's in that range that we kind of talked about of it's cool because he's low owned. Like if I happen to have, what is he, 7K? If I happen to have 7K left over, I'm not going to be upset about rostering the lowest owned guy on a showdown slate that can play 36 minutes or whatever. But right. I'm not sacrificing anything to get to him.
Yeah. I mean, I greatly prefer Rondo, who's $800 cheaper, and I prefer Jay Crowder, who's $400 more. Anytime you get that sort of sandwich, I'm out.
A 2v2. Would you rather have Jay Crowder and Duncan Robinson, or I'm trying to make sure the math is at least somewhat close,
LeBron and Iggy?
Yeah, LeBron James and Iggy, and $1,200 left over.
Yeah. It's LeBron and Iggy.
Or no, sorry, I can't do math. But yeah, LeBron and
$400 more for LeBron and Iggy. But I mean, just make LeBron AD in that scenario, and that combo is $200 cheaper. Is Bam a good pivot off of Jimmy?
At their current ownership, I prefer Jimmy.
Ooh, interesting. At their current ownership, I prefer Bam.
When we did the Heat 20 minutes ago, you agreed with me.
Are we talking about overall ownership? I'm just talking about strictly in the utility spot.
Oh, okay. That's right. Yeah. You did say you preferred Bam utility and you preferred Butler captain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I prefer Butler captain. I think it's close to utility.
Okay. Yeah, in the aggregate,
I still think I prefer Butler.
I think it's Butler, but it's just because I think Butler is significantly a better option than Bam at the captain spot. I don't know what to make of Bam for tonight. I think he's relatively healthy. I'm sure this 2 games off certainly helped. Did you hear them talking on the broadcast about what they wanted him to do before game 3 to see if he could play?
No.
They made him do a push-up, and he couldn't.
Oh.
They were like, you could play if you could do a push-up. And apparently that didn't go over very well for him.
The Cortland Sutton test.
Yeah. And then game 4, he was able to do it, so they let him play.
Yeah.
Can't imagine how bad that push-up in game 3 hurt.
Right.
Like how bad, how much pain do you have to be in to be Bam Adebayo, who strikes me as the type of person that would like grin and bear it, a lot at the very least, to not be able to perform that push-up, but to try it. It probably felt like he was getting hit with an axe in the shoulder.
Yeah, it had to be awful. And going back to the other question, I would rather, like, if my only choices are, if I had to like go like make the extreme choice between Butler and Bam, like I would at their ownership, I think I would rather just have 100% Butler.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about ownership, since we do have a little bit of extra time and we rarely get a chance to like really dig into this sort of stuff. How much more are you paying attention to quote unquote chalky lineups on a day like today compared to like a standard 8-game NBA slate? Like, are you cleaning out a lot of your most projected owned lineups just by default?
No, I mean, maybe I should be, but no.
Okay. Okay. So you are less concerned with, you have been less concerned with the duplication process.
Yeah, I've just been doing it pretty much the same as I always do, like factoring in the same stuff. And
okay,
it gives me, yeah, I don't know. I think it's normally fine. It's really hard to say with basketball too, because like I'm more interested to see how it turns out today. The last few slates, the pricing has just been so stupid that like you're going to dupe, or you're going to be playing lineups where you know that you're just a big underdog.
I know where you're coming from there. I'm tired of taking the beating. I would like just one to offset, the past like 2 months of Showdown.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we have here. Only thing good with Bam in the lineup less than 100% is he will slow down Davis enough to make LeBron the slightly better play with Butler. That's a lot of if this, then that. I don't think we've got much else to do. We got 230 people here, and we've been growing pretty aggressively from the moment that we stopped having stuff to talk about for this particular slate. So who should I play as captain? You're on the wrong show. You're looking for a lesser DFS site. Anybody? I mean, like Alex Caruso is 5% owned. Showed up in my sim 4.5% owned. What we're really saying there is like if you're playing a 20 max, you should probably have one. I mean, so at that point in time, you're going to have a bunch of different options. LeBron, AD, Jimmy Butler, all going to be relatively owned where they should be. It's really hard to find value at this point.
Yeah, no question. And I mean, the value ends up being like Andre Iguodala, which reinforces your point.
I'm fading Bam 100% and locking in Butler. Thoughts? I don't think it's a good idea.
I don't think making any decision like that at 10:45 a.m. is a good idea.
Very true. I mean, I don't think that that's a very good decision at 8:45 p.m. either.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I just don't see a scenario where you would ever want to fade Bam 100%. Not for me. I mean, if he was showing up with like 80% ownership, then yeah, a decent chance I'd have none as well. But what chance do you give the Heat to win the game? I don't know, 30?
I'll say 35.
Yeah. I mean, that's like an actual answer that exists. I don't know what the money line is right now.
Yeah, so that answer is off the top of my head. My actual answer would be whatever the odds say.
C. Cheryl says, okay, let's talk the Euro League slate, which starts at 12. I don't think I have any Euro League takes, but I might have to start learning them.
Play Jan Vesely.
Does that one sting?
Yes.
Makes sense. Crowder needs to score. When he scores over 23, the Heat win.
You know what also works is when the Heat in general score points, they win.
Yeah. Oddly enough, there's a correlation between scoring and victories.
It's the same. Have you seen the home run stat going around for baseball?
No.
Like, I don't remember the exact number, but it's basically like the team that has hit the most home runs is 19-1 in the playoffs. And like people are using it, I think, just to like counter the stupid small ball narrative that always comes up in the postseason.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just like, look, like if you out homer the other team, see home runs are good. It's like, yeah, no shit, you're scoring runs. Like,
yeah, at least one and potentially four.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you hit a grand slam. That is like basically the run line for the day.
Right. I mean, it all goes back. I mean, the best stat is still the winning teams in football run X percentage of the time.
Here's a good one. AD and LeBron haven't been the captain in the winning lineup the last 4 showdowns. Why do you sim them as the most likely to be the captain in the winning lineup?
It's a good question. I think your sim is broken.
Yeah. Or, and I'm just spitballing here, we should look at more than just the past 4 games. Just guessing. Maybe we should look at something else.
Is that even true?
That they haven't been the captain in the past 4? I don't know. Trying to think about it. It's AD and LeBron. So, I mean, well, no, look, here's the easiest way for me to describe this. I have LeBron at 23.6. I have AD at 24. Let's just say it's 25. So there's a 50% chance that one of them is the captain. All we're talking about is 4 straight coin flips.
Right.
Like, this shit happens a lot. Yeah. If you're only looking at the past 4 showdowns, prepare to lose a ton of money regularly. Is Calathis still in Euro? Lock. I think that he is.
I don't know who that is.
Nick Calathis. Just running through the Euro League. Never comes back.
Oh, Jimmy Butler's been captain, obviously.
Yeah. Because, LeBron, AD, and Jimmy Butler are the 3 most likely guys to be the captain. And still, that only happens 70% of the time. It's really easy to have anything happen in a 4-game sample of basketball. How many Heat players? Best I can tell you is that the Sims average 3.1 Lakers, 2.9 Heat. It's just always going to be some sort of split like that.
Also, going back to the point about captains, Jimmy Butler was significantly underpriced for the entire series until now.
Yeah, this is the most expensive that he's been in a while, that's for sure. I don't have anything else. Made it to 1050. Did get to 250 people. 69 likes. I can't even ask for more. It's a shame. I appreciate you guys landing on the number and likes. That's for sure. That's all I got, guys. So please don't hit the like button. Leave it at 69. I can't ask for anything else. It's already up to 72. Thanks, jerks. All right, we'll get it over 100 now. If you're not going to leave it at 69, at least get it into triple digits. Tons of shows left to go. Tons of free content coming up. Alex and I will be back in 9 minutes doing an NFL lineup construction show. Adam, I know you don't have anything else, so thank you for joining us. Subscribe, notification bell, podcast feed, content on the website, awesemo.com/join. We're out.